Hello, this is Darrell Castle with today's Castle Report. This is Friday, the 17th day of July in the year of our Lord 2026. My beat today is war once again, because it seems that the more we are told a political solution, a diplomatic solution has been reached, more missiles, more drones are fired, more targets, more people die. Then, of course, the retaliation has to come, so no solution politically. The president is in a very difficult position, but it is apparently of his own making. He's not an Eisenhower with many years of experience commanding vast armies in the biggest campaigns in human history. He is instead forced to rely on his team of advisors, and so they tell him where he should go, what the consequences will be, in their opinions. They must have told him that Iran was ripe for the taking, would just fall like Venezuela, but Iran is different. And any experienced military person should have been able to see that. Power unhinges people. People who seek it are often unhinged to start with. That is part of the reason Mr. Jefferson told us, he warned us, that every 20 years or so we should have a revolution to reset things, such as personal liberty. He reminded us that government agents are not saints or angels, but they are instead ordinary humans with all the vices and weaknesses of other ordinary humans. President Trump started rearranging his group of military advisors as soon as he was elected, because having no real military experience himself, I suppose he wanted people around him who would put the best spin on what he wanted to do. Do you think I can force Iran, a real and very large country, to surrender and concede its own desires using only naval and air forces? Oh, yes, Mr. President, yes, indeed. Iran will crumble when attacked, and the people will rise up and overthrow the government. That will be it, except that you will be an international conquering hero. To get the team of advisors who would tell him that, certain changes had to be made. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who is supposed to be his top military advisor, announced his retirement 1 month after the inauguration. The Secretary of Defense was changed as well, which is normal for the new president, but then the Department of Defense became the Department of War. I admit that's a more honest name, cuts out some hypocrisy, but it sends a very belligerent message. So this war, this attack against a country that was apparently no threat to the U.S., was supposed to resolve problems standing in the way of Greater Israel, the Greater Israel Project, but it had the opposite effect. Israel is much weaker and in a more tenuous position. Iran is much stronger in a more commanding position because of the war. When I say Israel is weaker, I mean that it literally has no friends except the United States, and it is, for the most part, hated around the world. A nation that has sponsored terrorism through proxies across the Middle East is now seen as the heroic barrier to Israel's genocide. The U.S. has suffered a humiliating defeat, or at least it is unable to keep the Strait of Hormuz open with its Navy. U.S. bases across the Middle East have been repeatedly attacked by Iranian missiles and drones, as have U.S. allies in the region. Just the other day, Jordan, which has tried very hard to stay out of the struggle, says it has no foreign bases in Jordan, had 10 or 12 missiles fired at its bases, and suffered considerable damage. The bottom line for U.S. interest is that Iran has proven to the world, the U.S., Israel, and other allies, that the promises of protection cannot be met. If one of the Gulf states, for example, responds to an Iranian attack, it is swarmed by Iranian missiles and drones. Much of their military bases have been severely damaged already. The bottom line for Israel, well, let's take a look at that. Israel has no political way out of this mess that I can see. Israel's goal from the beginning has been the destruction of Iran, which would leave Israel in complete domination of the Middle East, south of Turkey, of course. Israel simply cannot accomplish its goals without the U.S., but its leadership acts as if it doesn't care what the U.S. president wants. I can tell you what he wants with a fair degree of certainty. He wants out of this debacle, this mess, before it creates a worldwide depression. Bibi apparently cares nothing for the United States and its people, and he cares nothing for its survival. For example, last week reports are that Bibi and the president had a lengthy phone conversation, and President Trump asked him to leave southern Lebanon so he could meet one of the Iranian demands before peace. Bibi has still not complied with that request, and perhaps he has no intention of doing so. And if so, Trump has no way out. Israel is not interested in peace right now, only war. Israel has not let go of its original goal, and that was the complete destruction of Iran. Bibi said when it all started that he had been waiting for this war for 40 years. So let's get this straight, folks. The United States started bombing Iran because Israel wanted and demanded it. The bombing only hurts the U.S., makes it weaker, and is now threatening the world economy with depression. Israel will not do the basics that would allow the U.S. to escape, so Trump feels trapped. He blames it all on the Iranians, restarts the bombing on an even more massive scale. Why would Donald Trump, an obviously proud and vain man, put up with such shabby and embarrassing treatment by this ally of 9 million people, which could not continue to exist without the U.S.? That is the question of the day, isn't it? Could it be revelations from the Epstein files? Possibly, maybe so, but I don't think so, because the Democrats had those files before his election. They didn't use them. Could it be money? I'm sure there's money involved, but I don't think it's pure greed for Trump. He's already a multi-billionaire. Could it be something as simple as nuclear blackmail? That's pretty horrible to contemplate, but I suppose it's possible. How would that work? Who knows for sure? Who knows? But maybe something like this: if you don't help me destroy Iran, I'm going to do it myself with nuclear weapons. Or maybe we have planted dirty bombs all over Washington, D.C., just in case. Let me be clear, folks. I have no information at all to suggest that has happened. I'm just wondering where the control comes from. When Trump was campaigning in both 2016 and 2024, he ran on an anti-war promise. He said he would be remembered for the wars he didn't start. That was a very appealing message to me. All I know for sure is that after the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, he emerged from that a completely different man. First, he ordered a halt to the investigation of the assassination attempt, which raises all kinds of red flags. Why would you order the FBI and the Secret Service to stop investigating an attempted assassination against yourself? He became close friends with super war hawks like Lindsey Graham and many others. Trump is apparently trying to get a little distance from Bibi by using Turkey and putting the Turks forward as the next rising power in the Middle East, which could replace Iran, hopefully control Syria and Lebanon, which of course includes Hezbollah. Years ago, Turkey, although a NATO member, agreed to buy S-400 air defense systems from Russia. NATO was outraged by that because that would give Russia inside knowledge of NATO aircraft, radars, and so forth. The U.S. Congress sanctioned Turkey and delisted it from the F-35 program. Now Trump says, despite the congressional ban, he will sell F-35s to Turkey, as well as selling them or allowing them to purchase tail engines for the new stealth fighter they are working on, trying to build. So if they have those engines, they can make their own fifth generation fighters. The U.S. Congress is not the only group outraged by this deal. Can you imagine what Israel thinks about it? I'm pretty sure Bibi would want the U.S. to destroy Turkey after he has it destroy Iran, but I'm just guessing here, folks. That is not how diplomacy has been conducted over the years. One party never releases partial information about any deals until the paper is signed and the deal is done. In other words, there should be no release of information now. Well, we have a deal now. The Iranians call me begging to stop me from bombing, and that's what he has been doing. There is indeed something really weird about this war and all the negotiations. I've lived a while, folks. I've been a student of history. During most of that time, I can't remember the U.S. ever attacking a country for no obvious reason, not even a bogus reason that could be used as cover. Is quite a departure from the American way that we are used to and what we are supposed to be. Or maybe not, folks. Maybe we were born from war. We were born in revolution. We fought wars of expansion and a war that freed enslaved people, wars to help our friends in Europe, now wars apparently to maintain military control over the earth. So maybe it's not such a departure. In conclusion, folks, since the enemy gets a vote, as the generals like to say, the enemy votes to continue the war. One side can't just make it all go away by proclaiming that it has gone away. There is no political solution, but there are a few military solutions, one of which makes sense. Number one, the U.S. and/or Israel could destroy Iran with nuclear weapons. That would be the most catastrophic disaster in the history of man's time on Earth. Number two, the U.S. could invade, conquer, and occupy Iran with ground troops. That solution would be very bloody, very costly in terms of human destruction, and would probably severely damage the world economy and maybe provoke a worldwide depression. The only solution that makes any sense is the simplest one. That is to disengage, not only from Iran, but from the entire Middle East. Just come home. Come home from there and announce that the project for a new American century has been flushed. Announce that the U.S. will feed its own people, rebuild its own infrastructure, bandage its internal wounds for a while. Finally, folks, I see the Castle report not just as reporting the news, which you've probably already heard and already know, but I see it as giving you my take on the news, what I think about it. Ron Paul's been doing that very thing for 30 years, at least that's the way I see it. Until next time, folks, this is Darrell Castle. Thanks for listening.